We continue now at the top of Daf Nun Vavam and Beis Mesechet Kesubos. This is Kesuvos Daf 56b. The Gemara is discussing Rabbi Yehuda's shita in terms of making a tanai verbally in terms of a contract. So the Gemara had said in the previous summit that by something derabanan, so the Chachamim made chizuk l'divrayim, they strengthened it, and they said that a verbal tanai is not going to be effective. But the Gemara says no. We see that by a situation of peiros, which is derabanan, the peiros of nichsei melug, a verbal tanai is effective according to Rabbi Yehuda. V'kai malon, because we've established my kosev. What does it mean over there when it says he writes in the Tanai? It doesn't even mean to write it in Omer. It means he just says the Tanai verbally. So you see, on the contrary, here we have a case where it's derabanan, and apparently the Chachamim did not have any chizuk. They didn't strengthen it, and they said that a verbal Tanai would in fact be effective. So we have a contradiction in this regard. And the Gemara answers, Amar Abaya says, La kol yesh ksuba. Everybody there's a ksuba. Ksuba is something that is common, and therefore by a ksuba, so we're going to say over there that it's something that's derabanan, a verbal tanai will not work. V'lo la kol yesh peiros, but when it comes to peiros of nichsei melug, not everybody enters the marriage with nichsei melug. It's not so common, and so therefore, again, milsa de shchicha avdu barabanan chizuk. When it came to something common like the ksuba, so the chachamim made chizuk. They said a verbal tanai is not going to be effective. Again, the discussion being, can you reduce? Can the woman verbally say she already received 100 in order to reduce the payment of the ksuba? That you can't do. She has to write it out. But milsa de lo shchicha, but something that is not common like peiros, lo avdu barabanan chizuk. There, the rabbanan did not need to strengthen it, and because it didn't happen, it's not so common, and so therefore over there a verbal tanai is going to be effective. But the Gemara continues, Harei chamor, and what about the case with the donkey drivers, the shchichi? That's a common case. V'lo avdu lo rabbanan chizuk, and we see according to Rabbi Yehuda that the rabbanan did not strengthen in that situation. We see as follows: Ditnan, we learned in the Mishnah, hachamorin shenichnasu la'ir. Let's say you have a situation of donkey drivers that enter the city. V'yomar echad mehen, and one of them says, Shali chadash v'shel chaveri yoshan. Mine is new and my friend's is old. Shali eino mesukin v'shel chaveri mesukin. Mine is not fixed up, but my friend's is fixed up. There's no issue. You don't have to be concerned in terms of the proper maasros being separated. So the Tanakama says, ein nemonim. The Tanakama says they are not believed because we assume that they have a deal over here called gomlin. They pay each other back. They enter one city and one of them says, mine is no good, my friend's is good. And then when they enter the other city, the friend says the exact opposite. And that way in each city, they're going to be believed with regards to one of them. And so therefore the Tanakama says they're not believed. We assume over here it's a kind of a conspiracy. Rabbi Yehuda says, Nemonim, they are believed. In other words, Rabbi Yehuda over here is saying that we trust the individual to say that the proper maasros were taken off, and this is something which is derabanan, and also this is something which is common, and apparently we didn't strengthen it at all. We didn't make any chizuk, yet we said before, by something common derabanan, we do strengthen it. And the Gemara answers, Amar Abaya says, V'adai de divrayim of derabanan chizuk. If you have a certainty that is derabanan, so then the rabbanan had to strengthen it. But demai is not a certainty. It could be that the meister was taken off anyway. Safik de divrayim, when you have a doubt situation of a derabanan, lo of derabanan chizuk, the rabbanan did not have to strengthen it. Rava says, b'demai hikilu. By demai we're lenient in general. By demai we are more lenient. Rashi over here says, b'demai hikilu mishar safik de divrayim. We're even more lenient than other safik that takes place by the rabbanans. The afilu safik less. It's not even a safik. The rov amei haaretz masrin hein, because there's a majority of amei haaretz. They take off the proper maasros. And we'll take a look a couple Rashis back as well. Varei chamorim gabe demai derabanan, who again demai is derabanan. V'lo avdu chizuk lemechash legomna Rabbi Yehuda. We didn't strengthen it. We have no concern that they're just doing each other favors, according to Rabbi Yehuda. The other case over there was shali chadash. Mine is new, his is old. The point Rashi says is vayoshan tov mimenu. The yoshan is better. When it's older, it's actually more quality. Shachadash adayin enu yavish called sarcho. The newer is not dried out fully. V'achinami amrin and bezu neshech hayu chadash as me'arbav yashanas mishalish. That's what it says over there in Baba Metzia. Rashi says some people say by Yoshan and Chadash. Over here we're talking about like the halacha of Yoshan, but Rashi rejects that explanation. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The Mishnah said, Rabbi Meir Omer kol apochis v'chulu. Rabbi Meir said if somebody gives less than the amount of 200 to a basula or 100 to an almana in terms of the ksuba, so then that relationship is considered to be a bi'ilas nus. And so the Gemara says kol apochis. It says anyone who gives less than the standard amount, afilu b'tzana. Apparently, even if you have a condition over here, even if you make a condition, apparently alma kasavar, it's no batal. We see that Rabbi Meir holds the tanai is batal. The tanai is as if it's nothing. V'isla, and really she's entitled to the full amount. V'kevan do amar les lachelamana, but since he told her I'm only giving you 100, lo samcha daita, she doesn't rely on that. V'hava la bilaso bilas nos, and that's the logic. That's why Rabbi Meir says the Be'ila is considered a Be'ilas Nus, because again, according to Rabbi Meir, the Tanai saying that you're going to give less than the 200 is going to be ineffective, and therefore she's really entitled to the 200, but she doesn't rely on it because he said he's only giving 100. That's why you have a problem over here. But the Gemara says 1 second. Vashamina leila Rabbi Meir. Didn't we hear that Rabbi Meir held? Rabbi Meir said if you make a condition against something in the Torah, the Tanai is batal. Habidirabanan to no kayim. But when it comes to something that's dirabanan like the ksuba, the Tanai should be effective. So why does Rabbi Meir say the Tanai is not effective? And to that the Gemara answers, Kasav Rabbi Meir ksuba do raisa. Must be that Rabbi Meir holds ksuba is not dirabanan, but rather ksuba is do raisa. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rabbi Meir says, anybody who gives a basula less than 200 in the ksuba, or an almana less than 100 in the ksuba, harezu be'ilas nos. Again, this is considered a licentious be'ila. It's considered a relationship that is like a forbidden relationship. Rabbi Yossi Omer Rashoy. Rabbi Yossi says it's permitted. The person can give less than the regular amount. We'll take a look at Rashi over here. Rabbi Yossi Omer Rashoy. It's allowed. Va'afilu al pet nami tanokaim. According to Rabbi Yossi, even if you do it verbally, the Tanai is going to be effective. You can lower the amount. V'yasser Rabbi Yehuda l'meimar nami Rashoy. Rabbi Yehuda, we'll see in a moment, also says it's permitted. Ki Rabbi Yossi, like Rabbi Yossi. Miu al pet to no batal. But Rabbi Yehuda says if you do it verbally, the Tanai won't work. Kedamrina le'el. That's what we said earlier on Amar Aleph. Chachamim asu chizuk le'divrei Yosef mishal Torah. That since this is derabanan, so the Chachamim wanted to strengthen it, and you have to actually write out the Tanai. Avabasa limchol tichtov shover. But again, if you want to be mochel, so then she can write the shover. You have to actually write it out. That's what the Gemara continues in the brayso. Rabbi Yehuda says, Ratza kosev lebasula shtar shel masayim. If he wants, he can write for the basula 200 shtar. V'kosev eslo, and she writes back, Hiskabalti mimcha mana. I already received 100. Uli almana mana. He can write for the almana 100. V'kosev eslo, Hiskabalti mimcha chamishim zuz. She writes back that I already received 50 zuz. And so the Gemara continues, V'savar Rabbi Yossi Rashoy, but does Rabbi Yossi really say that it's permitted over here to give the lesser amount? Or in Mini we have the following contradiction, Ein osin ksubas isha metaltal, and it says you're not allowed to designate metaltal in movable property for the ksuba. Mimnei tikun ha'olam, that's because of tikun ha'olam, as Rashi says, Shema yovdu, or yivchasu demei, and maybe they'll be lost, or maybe they will lose value, and therefore you're not supposed to do that. Amar Rabbi Yossi says, V'chi ma tikun ha'olam yesh bazu, what tikun ha'olam is there if you're going to use movable property? V'aloin kitsuvin upochsen, but they're not set, they don't have a set value, and they depreciate in value, so you should not use metaltalin. Gemara says, 1 second, Tanakama nami einosim kamer. The Tanakama also said not to use movable property. Rabbi Yossi is responding to the Tanakama, you should not use movable property. That's what the Tanakama said. So how do we understand this brisa? Elalav, rather is it not saying as follows, Hachi kamar, this is what it means to say. The Tanakama wasn't saying you can never use movable property. Just if you don't accept achrayis, you don't accept responsibility, let's say it gets lost, then you shouldn't use movable property. But if the husband takes achrayis, says, look, if this movable property is lost, I'll make sure to replace. So osin, so then you are allowed to use movable property. Rashi over here says, if he didn't accept achrayis, if they would get lost. So meaning the Tanakama is not concerned with depreciation, is only concerned that something's going to happen to the movable property. And Rabbi Yossi is responding, but who cares if he accepts achrayis? We still have a problem. Because even if they're in front of us, but these are items that can depreciate in value. Again, that's what the Gemara now explains. And Rabbi Yossi now responds to the Tanakam and says, if you have a situation where he accepted achrayis, but still, even in a situation where he accepted achrayis, why should you designate movable property? They don't have a set value, they depreciate in value, and so therefore Rabbi Yossi essentially is saying over here, you cannot designate movable property for the ksuba because it depreciates in value. And so now the Gemara wants to use this and to say, well, if you're not allowed to use movable property because it depreciates in value, certainly you can't just say you're going to give less than the standard amount. Hashtu ma'hasam the dilma pachsi chayish. Now over there where maybe it will depreciate, Rabbi Yossi is concerned. Chayish Rabbi Yossi is concerned. Hacha devada kapirsa. Over here where for sure she's going to lose out because he's saying he's not going to give the full 200. Lokal shekain, certainly it should be a problem. So how does Rabbi Yossi say Rashoy. How does Rabbi Yossi say it's permitted to give less than the 200? And the Gemara answers, Hachi Hashta. What kind of comparison is this? Hasam over there, Lo Yada de Tachel. Over there, she doesn't know. In other words, she doesn't know what's going to happen in the case of movable property, so she's never really mochel. That's why it's problematic. But over here, Yada v'kamachla. Here, she knows exactly what's happening. She knows she's getting less than 200, and she's mochel. She forgives it, and therefore it might be okay. It might actually be better in a situation where it's stipulated ahead of time that she's going to get less. And the Gemara continues, Achse de Rami Bar Chama, the sister of Rami Bar Chama, havas nesiva l'Rav Avia. She was married to Rav Avia, and we'll continue this discussion in the next video on Daf Nun Zayin Amud Aleph.